Welcome to the midweek devotion of the Littleton United Methodist Church in Littleton, Illinois, where sunsets and moonrises are breathtaking. Today we're going to talk a little profanity. Yep, that's what I said, profanity. Welcome to our midweek devotions. We're so glad that you're joining us today. We're going to talk some profanity today. I want to talk about 3 kinds of profanity, and at the end of that, a quick takeaway, and then we're done. Okay? Let's start with just a little bit of vulgarity. You know what vulgarity is, don't you? The word vulgar, it sort of means uncivilized, unrestrained, rude, crude, unkind, sexual sometimes, earthy, common, unsophisticated. That's one of the earliest translations of the Bible was in Jerome's translation from Greek into Latin, became the mainstay for centuries in the church. It was called the Latin Vulgate. And Vulgate just meant the common language of the common people. Nothing too sophisticated about it. Barnyard language, my folks used to call it. And for generations now, mothers have had an answer, a cure for vulgarity. Right here. Doesn't cost very much. You can get it about any grocery store. It's designed to clean the inside of your mouth just like the outside. Wipes away all those dirty words. Although, if we were going to be serious about this and have a little secret, it never wiped away anything for me. That was one of my vices, my potty mouth. I used to practice cussing. I mean, it wasn't intentional, but I practiced it like an athlete. Every week I would go bowling, and every week I would pick up that ball, and I didn't have such a bad average. I over a lifetime I averaged about 125, so I could hit down some pins, nothing great, and certainly not a league bowler. My wife was a league bowler. She's better than me, but certainly nothing great. A lot of strikes, a lot of gutter balls, and I would practice every week 10 frames. I'd play 3 games, 30 frames. I would line up at the line. I'd put my feet where they're supposed to be. I would put the ball in the position it was supposed to. I would walk up, remember right foot, left foot, let go of the ball, and all the way up to that line, I was practicing my bowling. From that line back to the seat, I was practicing my cussing. That was hard for me as a new Christian, especially a new Christian that had dreams of going into ministry someday or being a church leader. I mean, that mouth wasn't supposed to be on that body. And I thought God would clean it up and cure it, and God didn't. It took a long time and a lot of practice, because I'd had a lot of practice on how to use that mouth. And I've been in ministry for decades, and still those words make it up to here sometimes and not quite out through here. And I've had a great fear that someday I would have Alzheimer's or a stroke or something, that I had less control of myself and my grandkids would hear words from me that they never knew. Yeah, God can take care of the future, but that's vulgarity. Just being vulgar. those little four-letter words. And you know them, and I know them, and probably we both have said them. Now let's get to type number 2, the second type of profanity. Let's talk blasphemy. That's a pretty scary word, isn't it? I mean, it just literally means something like to misuse, to treat lightly, to treat irreverently the name of God, the things of God. Actually, it's in the Ten Commandments. I mean, barnyard language. When I was a kid growing up, my parents pretty much told me that you shouldn't say bad words. That's what the Ten Commandments spoke of, but it doesn't actually. I mean, it's not good to say bad words. Don't go tell everybody I told you it's okay. But it talks about misusing the name of the Lord. Commandment, here it is. In Exodus chapter 20, verse 7. Do not misuse my name. I am the Lord your God, and I will punish anyone who misuses my name. Now, there are a couple of ways we can do that are blasphemy. One is just to use the name of God as a cuss word. I mean, how would you like it if somebody all around the country decided to start using your name as a cuss word? If it was, oh, Rob, we're out at a golf course, throw the golf club and yell, that's such a Rob. God doesn't like it either. Another way we can use it lightly is just to be flippant and irreverent and joke and laugh and play as if God isn't God. And another way is we can use it as magic. Back in the early days, in the days where most of the books of the Bible were written, one of the magical incantations, a lot of power, was to know someone's name. The idea being that if you knew their name, that you could have some sort of power over that person. And so people would use the name of God in oaths or in, I guess we would say, spells or something, like in God's name we use this and have power. And that's also kind of bordering there on blasphemy. I mean, the difference between prayer and magic sometimes is a pretty fine line. In our world religion classes, we usually say, who's in the driver's seat? If God is in the driver's seat and you are pouring out your heart and you are asking for God to meet your needs and you are calling out to God for help, then God's in the driver's seat. That's prayer. If you think you yourself have the power in God's name to do what you want to have done outside of God's leading, that fits the definition of magic. This commandment says, thou shalt not misuse the name of God. That is, lightly, irreverently, as a curse word, swear word, or as a magical. Now, we go to number 3, and then finish up with a quick takeaway. Now, with number 3, we get to the biggie, the really biggie. And you might ask, how can there be anything bigger than blasphemy? How can there be anything that is cruder, ruder than barnyard language or sexual innuendo and making fun of that? Well, there is. It's in the Bible more often and spoken against more, and that is simply unwholesome speech. A few weeks ago, we were in the book of Romans looking at this spiral of sin as it gets worse and worse and worse. And when we get to the bottom of the spiral of sin, we get to gossip and malicious language and to putting each other down and to causing dissensions and causing fights. And I said several months ago, maybe a year or more ago, when we were doing these midweek devotions, that my favorite Bible verse is Ephesians 4:29. Let no unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. But today, for this week, I want to pick out, boy, probably the master of speaking about unwholesome language is James. And in James chapter 1, we have these words. James chapter 1, verse 26. If you think you are being religious, but can't control your tongue, you are fooling yourself, and everything you do is useless. Then it goes on to talk about real religion, but before it does, I want to come back over here to James chapter 3 and start with verse 2. All of us do many wrong things and probably say many wrong words. But if you can control your tongue, you are mature and able to control your whole body. By putting a bit into the mouth of a horse, we can turn the horse in different directions. It takes strong winds to move a large sailing ship, but the captain only uses a small rudder to make it go in any direction. Our tongues, they're small too, and yet they brag about really big things. It takes only a little spark to get a forest fire going. That tongue is like a spark. It is an evil power that dirties the rest of the body and sets a person's entire life on fire with flames that come from hell itself. Ooh, that's pretty strong language. Ooh. All kinds of animals, birds, reptiles, and sea creatures can be tamed and have been tamed, but our tongues get out of control. They are restless and evil and always spreading deadly poison. My dear friends, with our tongues we speak both praises and curses. We praise our Lord and Father, and we curse people who were created to be like God. And this isn't right. Can clean water and dirty water both come from the same spring or the same faucet? Can a fig tree produce olives or a grapevine produce figs? Does fresh water come from a well full of water? Well, there we have three kinds of profanity. We have vulgarity, we have blasphemy, we have simply unwholesome talk. Gossip and backbiting and dissension and tearing people down and destroying their egos, their self-egos, and hurting their feelings. And you know what I'm talking about. Well, let me do one takeaway, and when I'm done with one takeaway, then I'm done. And you're probably done with me. Here is the sobering takeaway that when I look at this, but there are multitudes. I mean, I was raised in a church. I've been around Christian folk all my life. There are multitudes of Christians that have a sincere type of faith, that watch their language, that respect the name of God, and yet their tongue drips with venom like a rattlesnake. That is, they're profane in their language about other people. They hurt people around them. They stir up dissension and church squabbles all around them. They are addicted to profane speech just as much as I was addicted to four-letter words. Actually, 4, 5, 6, 7. I had lots of words. Coming back down from bowling. only because they're self-controlled in their type of speech and the words they use and the vocabulary that's at their disposal. It doesn't seem to them like they are profane, but they are. And the Bible speaks more often about that kind of profanity than the kinds we notice and look down on. Well, a habit is a hard thing to break. And for a lot of us, our speech patterns are habits. So we have a few more days before the end of this weekend. May God guard your words, open your eyes, and give you a heart that doesn't see people as something that should be talked against, but as sees them and made in the image of God. May God bless you.